Hello, everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. How is everyone doing this evening? Happy and blessed Monday, and welcome to episode 559 of the Welcome to Asgard podcast, where tonight we're going to talk about what's going on with How to Train Your Dragon, the live-action adaptation, which dominated the weekend, making roughly $200 million globally in its opening. What exactly that means for the box office of that film going forward. Also, my personal thoughts on the movie itself with a review of the film. And I figured it would also be a good time to then open it up to a bit of open forum. So any questions related to movies, the box office, things that are relevant to the channel, things that are relevant to me if you've been around here for a while, those are all going to be on the table today. So get y'all's questions ready for that to come ahead. But before going any further, please make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you also light up that fire button if you happen to be watching over on Odyssey, and also smash that rumble button as well. Should be live over on X at the same time. And let's go ahead and say hello to the good people who are hanging out in the chat tonight. Thank you all again for being here. So at 5:20, Gary Banjo Sandwich Worthington, what's going on, Gary? Saying, never saw the cartoon, liked the live action for How to Train Your Dragon. Yeah, I feel like if you are in that category, if you have never seen the cartoon version of the movie before, the original film, you will probably like the movie because there are a lot of things within the story itself that are good. The big issue that I have with the movie is that it is completely and utterly pointless, because it's one thing if you are remaking like an older movie, not because you're trying to update the story, but because you're trying to say, oh, we could do this better. We could maybe have better effects. We could maybe do something to elevate it to a certain degree. Then it makes sense when you have a remake of some kind, right? Or you have a follow-up or whatever it might be. If you're going to improve things, if you're going to increase the notoriety of the movie, I guess you could even argue that that is a legitimate reason to potentially have a remake of some kind. With this movie, though, it is essentially a shot-for-shot remake of the animated version, including some of the exact same shots, just in live-action form. And they really don't change much. And that's a good thing. Again, that is something that we typically hear as far as complaints about the modern live-action adaptation. Disney is notorious for this, where they change things. They even did it in the recent Lilo and Stitch film, where they changed the character of Nani to such a degree that they had to add in a post-credit sequence to kind of address that major problem of changing her character and having basically the big sister of the movie abandoned family, for lack of a better expression. With this movie, it doesn't do that, right? It actually stays very, very true to the original. It changes very, very minor things, extends only a couple of sequences here and there. The issue, though, is that, okay, why then does it exist? It's not like the original animated movie is old. It's not like it came out ages ago. We're talking about the original coming out, 15-ish years ago? So that's still relatively young in the span of a movie's history. You had 2 follow-up movies, you had a TV series, you have everything going on in Epicverse, and when you take into account all of those things, especially with the launch of the Epic Universe, okay, all that we can really take away then is that this is nothing more than a cash grab opportunity, and I don't like that. That's something that I'm very much critical of. And I'm going to, again, call out always remakes, reboots that change stories, that go in a very, very specific political direction, because that's really the issue. It's not the changing of the story that we have issues with. It's when you change the story because you want to push an agenda of some kind. That is the issue that we have. Because you can adapt things, right? You can reboot things and change certain elements, and sometimes that can be okay. I think you look at an adaptation of a book series, for instance. There are certain things that you have to change. You look to the first couple of Harry Potter movies, most people who are fans of the books will even say, yeah, the things they left out, it's actually making sense to me as to why they may have wanted to do that, for budgetary reasons or creative reasons, whatever it might be, to try to fit it into that specific runtime. But with How to Train Your Dragon, basically, because it's nothing else other than the animated movie in live action form, all I'm left with then is to say, okay, so all I have to really do is watch the animated version of the movie, and I get the movie. Why am I Why am I wanting to, and why am I being pushed to spend more money on a movie that doesn't do anything better than the original film? And I really haven't heard a good argument as to something that is done better in the movie, like in the live action adaptation versus the animated version, because the character designs are basically the exact same. The voice acting of the animated movie, in my opinion, fits the characters as they are written much better. It's not that the actors in the live action are bad necessarily, but I do think that it's matching a lot better. That's why one of the best characters in the movie, Stoic, played by Gerard Butler, was voice acted originally by Gerard Butler. And so he was able to match that and also, of course, bring a nuance to the character because, hey, it's different when you're doing a voice for a character versus doing it live action. So I do have these issues because ultimately you're going to have people that go to see the film that are going to say, this is really, really good. And they had not seen the animated movie. And that's fine, right? Obviously, I can't take away anyone's joy, and I would never want to take away anyone's joy. But I'm going to have issue because as a studio, it tells me, okay, so are you that out of ideas? Are you that strapped for cash that you had to put forward a movie and somehow still spend $150 million on that movie? Just to tell the same exact story, the same exact way, have almost beat for beat, almost shot for shot, the same movie, just to make a quick buck? And again, it's paying for them. It's clearly working for them. That's one of the things we'll talk about tonight is that it had the biggest opening of the franchise. And for once, Tony at Deadline and others are actually accurate in this. Because even when you adjust for inflation, it actually is the highest grossing opening weekend of the franchise. What is interesting to me, though, and that's why I don't just look at inflation, I also look at ticket sales. What's most interesting to me is that even though it is the highest grossing opening domestically of the franchise, probably worldwide too, it's harder to track those numbers the further you get back. The issue is that it still sold almost the same number of tickets. It only beat the original How to Train Your Dragon animated movies opening weekend ticket sales. That's the only one of the series that it actually on paper beat. Remember, ticket sales cost a lot more, right? Ticket prices are a lot higher than they were back in 2010. They're a lot higher than they were back during the subsequent sequels, which happened every 3 or 4 years, I believe, up until about 2018, 2019, I think. So what that means then is that the audience is about the same size. So even though, yes, it's the biggest on record for them, as far as number of people are concerned, it's the same. Now, in my video from yesterday, the box office breakdown, I said that's actually a good thing because most franchises these days tend to lose their audience, right? Most franchises tend to have that law of diminishing returns where they get less and less and less over time. But with this, making the same or having about the same number of people show up to your opening and have good word of mouth to boot, right? Gary Banjo Sandwich obviously really enjoyed it. I've heard a lot of very high praise for this movie. Means that you're going to have a good run with this film. Like, it's going to, because of its opening weekend and also because of other indicators, it's likely going to have the biggest box office of the entirety of the franchise. So just as it had the biggest opening weekend, it'll probably also have the biggest total box office globally of the franchise. And that's easy money for them. But it also means that that laziness that led to that decision to make the film that way is going to once again come about. Now, I've heard some say that it's already been greenlit for a sequel, so we'll have How to Train Your Dragon 2 now in live action. But I've also heard the director, who was the original director of the animated film, who directed this live action version, I've heard he is not going to be a part of that second movie. So we'll see what happens with that one, because that would be where you could potentially see some changes if there's other changes in writing, etc. Again, as far as control, as far as what they're trying to do. Don't quite understand exactly what it is that they are attempting to do with this franchise, other than just to make money, make a quick buck. Again, obviously, as the industry goes, you do want to make your money back, you do want to make profits, but at what price? So that's why I really have issues with the film. That's why I gave it a decent score. I gave it a middling, like 5.5 out of 10. And it's more so to do with the fact that, hey, I would enjoy this film. I would think this film is good. However, it's already been done before. And in my opinion, it was done much better. So this isn't really adding anything to it. I have no desire to ever watch the live action version again, because I can just go back to the shorter, much more succinct, but still tell the same story, and in many ways do it better in the animated version, because the way the story plays out, it is better suited for animation. When you're dealing with dragons, when you're dealing with the mystical and the mythical, hey, it's going to look a lot better in CG. It's going to look a lot better, rather, in full CG films than in this mixture of live action and CG blue screen, green screen stuff. Because it looks so artificial, and no matter how great the technology has developed, it still looks that way. Anyway, so a little bit of an early, kind of getting that out of the way, my review of the film. Again, it's good. But the movie is good. The original film is good. The original story is good. So every single thing that you could say good about the live action film, it's like, okay, yeah, already been done though. Kind of goes back into that. I have my Raven Awards every single year. This will definitely be one that I will nominate for best pointless remake. Because really, again, completely pointless. Does not add anything to it. Keely Chow, what is going on? Hail to you. Thanks for being here. Everyone's doing very well. Kids actually fell asleep pretty quickly tonight, which was very surprising. Must have had a very busy day. Snorterpoopus Cuber, hello, humans and other quitters. What's going on, Snorterpoopeth? He then says, hello to you. Thank you for being here, Snorterpoopus. All right, let me make sure I got all those chats before I open things up. Boom, we got Shorty Short, Laura, the Mother Major General, coming in at 7:14 saying, howdy, open forum. Yes, indeed. Shorty Short, thank you for being here. Also, please make sure you smash that like button. 25 people watching, only 11 likes. Y'all can do better than that. Thanatos Felicitas. Hello, Odin. Hello, Thanatos at 7:23. Wendy Hunter. Wendy! What's going on, Wendy? Who is a member here on the channel, just like Snorterpoopus. Tag in and say hello to the chat and to me. Appreciate you. Appreciate it very much. We got the Morak, also 726, tagging. Hail, happy Monday to you as well. Thank you for being here. Wendy Hunter saying, I love the OG cartoon of How to Train Your Dragon. I worked at Regal at the time. Haven't seen the live action one. And honestly, you're not really missing much. So if you're someone that you can, find enjoyment in seeing the same movie all over again, only in live action form, maybe you'll find something in it. I'm not saying that if you've seen the animation that you'll not like the live action. There's a lot of people that have liked it. But I think that the general sentiment of whether it be the guys at Film Threats, whether it be, I think even Jeremy Johns kind of indicated this in his review as well, is it's just like, okay, what are we doing here? Like what is the purpose of this? If you're just going to remake the same exact story and not really change anything and not really improve upon anything and have people who've watched the film just say, oh, I like the voice actor better from the original, or, oh, I like the way that the movie handled this, and basically all you have is a much longer, more bloated version of the original movie, I'm sorry. The original is going to win that battle every time. 727, Shorty Short saying, hello, Laura. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Gary Banjo Sandwich Worthington at 729 saying, F1 premiere Times Square tonight. It looks a hit. Will it be? I don't think. Gary Banjo Sandwich Worthington. I don't think it will be. Here's the issue that it has. Now, I've heard Ryan RK Outpost mention the budget being around $300 million. I don't follow this stuff every single day, so all I can do is go based off of what's being reported. The last I saw was the budget was around $200 million. However, whether it be $200 million or whether it be $300 million, again, either one of those is still very high. The projections currently are not looking all that great for the movie, at least according to Box Office Theory's early tracking, and that's just specifically looking at the domestic box office for the movie. Okay? So, actually, okay, we have now had an update because of the last time I saw it was mentioning $200 million. It says the 225 film F1, directed by Joseph Kosinski, starring Brad Pitt, has a reported budget of $300 million. However, during an interview, Jerry Bruckheimer, one of the producers, mentioned that the actual budget is significantly lower than the reported figure, though he did not provide an exact number. According to the film's IMDb page, the estimated budget is $250 million. So we're probably talking about a movie costing between $200 and $300 million. Who knows if there's any tax credits involved or anything to that degree, right? So that means that you have a break-even point minimum of $600 million globally. And that's assuming a typical marketing strategy. If they spend more on marketing for the movie, then that obviously break-even point would go that much higher. Also, if they're going to make much more money internationally than domestically, same thing. That break-even point gets that much higher because they get that much less back on returns for it. So since this is kind of kicking off our open forum, tonight, let's talk a little bit about the box office for F1. So here is the early projections right now for F1. So you can see 56 million domestic is the low end for its opening. Again, this is a film opening up in a couple weeks on June 27th. I'm very excited for it. I like Joseph Kosinski, who's the director. I like his entire team. He's got his cinematographer back. He has got his same like production writing team. So the same team that's made a lot of really good movies. Like I think the last one most people would have seen was Top Gun Maverick. He's done a lot of really good things. And so I'm very much excited to see what he'll do with F1, with F1 racing. As someone who especially is not really a racing fan. That's one of the things that was very special about Ford v Ferrari, right? Was it actually made racing interesting to a non-racing person. So I'm hoping F1's able to do something very similar. I think the marketing and trailers have already been pretty effective in doing that. And hey, if it has the same effect where it's able to maybe start off pretty low, like Top Gun Maverick started off, not the biggest numbers we've ever seen, but because of how good and how entertaining it was, that word of mouth pushed that film, right, to being well over over $1 billion back when that film came out a few years ago. So could we see that happen again? Could be, but we don't see it currently with the numbers being reported, right? So a low-end 56 million debut, high-end 72 million, with a total domestic range of $157 to $240 million. So looking at that second number there, so let's say 200 million domestic is what it does. We'll probably see at least, if it makes that much domestically, $300 to $400 million in the internationals. So break-even point, maybe gets there. But then the question gets asked about, okay, but how much of that money is going to come from those internationals? Because maybe that break-even goes from 3 times your box office, 3 times your budget, rather, up to 3.2, 3.5, potentially. So as of right now, it's not looking great on the current tracking. But as we all know, tracking doesn't always mean everything. Top Gun Maverick was not tracking to be the film that it ended up being, right? So I think there is all the potential in the world for F1. It just hasn't been realized yet. It hasn't been actualized, right? The potential has not yet brought to fruition at this point. So based on the numbers I'm seeing, it's not looking like it's going to be a massive hit. That doesn't mean that it's going to fail. It doesn't mean that it's going to be a massive flop. But especially if the budget is actually closer to $300 million and there aren't any tax credits or other things that it's going to have helping it, then you're talking about it being a $900 million break-even point. Okay? So between $600 and $900 million to break even, that's never a good place to be. And with the kind of opening it's expected to have domestically, it doesn't seem realistic. But again, that's why I typically don't make guesses just based on early tracking. I wait for opening weekend numbers, and most especially, I wait for those second weekend numbers, because sometimes we can make projections, right? Sometimes we can nail things pretty accurately, right? If you look at the Minecraft film, even though the movie did a lot better, especially down the road, than anyone could have expected, with a $300 million global opening, it still did about 3 times that number. And that's where most films tend to end up. They tend to make 3 times their global opening. Same thing also with Lilo and Stitch, right? That film opened to $300 million globally. That film right now is tracking, towards 950-ish million. I don't think it'll hit $1 billion. I think it's slowing down a little bit too much. But again, we'll have to wait and see, right? Jury's still out on that. Though I'm pretty confident now that it won't be able to. Now, again, I say that Disney, of any and all of the companies out there, if there's any company that's going to push a film and will the existence of a film to reach $1 billion, it is going to be Disney. They will do every trick in the book they can to push more and more people out there to push those numbers up. Because they, again, even though $1 billion is not needed to make money, especially off of a film like Lilo and Stitch, which reportedly only cost $100 million to make, $1 billion you don't need. That's overkill. But Disney wants it, because Disney wants that headline. Disney wants to have that. And good old Nance over at Deadline still thinks it's possible. In fact, she says it's tracking towards $1 billion still. Again, we'll have to wait and see. Apparently, the numbers.com's numbers did not update to the numbers being reported by some other sites like Box Office Mojo, or the numbers that are used by the likes of those over at Deadline. But even at $850 million, it's still a ways away, and it's still slowing down quite a bit, right? It made about 15 million or so this past weekend domestically. It made, 20 to 30 million internationally, so it's about a 50% plus drop in both markets. if it keeps making 50% of those numbers each week from this point forward. It's been out for, what, 4 weeks already about? So it's probably got another 6 weeks within its run, maybe, before eventually it goes to streaming. I think that film might be a 90-day theatrical window. We'll have to wait and see. Yeah, I mean, again, mathematically it's possible. Probability, it doesn't seem very high at this point. But yes, good question about F1. Again, not saying it's not going to be good, not saying that it's going to be a flop either, but money is what money is. I just do the equations, okay? There's a main reason why all y'all come here to listen to me talk and yammer, and it's because you want to hear about the numbers. You want realistic portrayals of things, and ultimately also because you care about this.
Time to see a real mathematician at work.
That's right. Y'all care about the math. And seeing a real mathematician at work, of course. Rob D at 729. I love that clip so much. Wife and I actually just rewatched that play. It's actually an off-Broadway show that was out years ago, all about, it's about a Hufflepuff going through Hogwarts during the same time that Harry Potter's going through it. So it's a comedy, it's a satire, it's really, really funny. Anyway, you can get it like on Amazon and other places because they actually filmed the show's production, but that's where that clip comes from. People usually ask, and I love it. It makes me laugh every single time. Anyway, Rob D at 729 saying, hello, Odin. Hope you had a good Father's Day. Here's a box office fact. Solo, a Star Wars story, did in fact lose money. I know, hard to believe. So hard to believe. So difficult to accept that reality. We got Jimmy A in the chat. What's going on, Jimmy A? Hail to you. Thanks for being here. We got Mr. Roy, who is a member, one of the Chosen of Valhalla, here on the channel saying, hello. What's up, Mr. Roy? Glad to have you here. Thanatos Felicitas saying, I remember the remake of Psycho. Utterly pointless. And also, from what I've heard, bad. Because even though they tried to make it more like book accurate, like instead of having the here's Johnny and having the axe, they go back to the croquet mallet. Okay. No one talks about it really. No one really ever rewatches it because it doesn't really have that quality. What, Vince Vaughn, I think, was in that remake of Psycho, in fact. Yeah. Actually, sorry, I'm thinking of The Shining, not Psycho. Anyway, yes, if they tried to remake the Psycho, did they actually remake Psycho? I remember they remade The Shining. Did they actually remake Psycho? And if that's the case, hey, just goes ahead and shows you, right? Oh, it did so well, that remake of Psycho, that everyone talks about it. Wendy Hunter, Wendy saying, I was wondering if that was what the live action was going to be. Yeah, it doesn't get political, luckily. That's something that we can be very thankful for. So if you don't care about watching the same exact movie just in live action, then it might be worth your time. Kickain Rumsky over on the Green Machine. What's up, Kickain Rumsky? Saying, Culture Casino brought up Meg 2 on Midnight's Edge today. Does this mean I am trending? Good Lord, I hope not. Oh, goodness. Do you bring up the Meg 2 on Culture Casino stream as well? That's the real question. Vi Vander. Or is it Vivander? What's up, Vi? Just came back from the theater. The film made me nauseous. The 3D was a little unsettling as well. Wow. Yeah, imagine if you had like the 4DX version. So there was a really funny short going around on social media, and it's someone who was going to see it saying, oh, I just always wanted to know what it was like to fly a dragon. And then they go to the 4DX showing, and it's just like craziness. And not exactly the peaceful journey they thought it was going to be. I've never done 4DX myself. I can understand why, again, because you're bringing that physicality to the movie, that it might enhance it for some. I don't know. I feel like it'd be a little bit too much for me. Forever Sci-Fi, hail to you, Forever Sci-Fi. We got Kimberly G, Killian, Shadow Cat. What's going on, Kimberly G? Happy Monday, Odin and chat. Happy Monday to you, Kimberly G. Thanks for being here. Killy Chow, it's best to leave doing cash grabs to Disney. Yeah, you would say that, Keely Chow, and yet their cash grabs tend not to make cash. Lilo and Stitch is a very rare exception for them. It's a movie they spent very little on. That's not the Disney way, right? It was originally being made for Disney Plus. They adapted it to be a movie for theatrical release. And again, we don't know exactly how much extra money they may have had to spend on post-production for that reason. We just don't have that data. But it's actually a huge hit for them in the live action department, because normally it goes the route of something like a Snow White, for instance, which is a massive catastrophe. at least in more recent years. Obviously, they do have some successful live-action adaptations. You go back to the live-action Aladdin. You go back to the live-action Beauty and the Beast. On paper, we could say there were huge successes there. Not nearly as big as they could have been had they actually been good films. All right, Mr. Gary, the Banjo Sandwich, saying, watching How to Train Your Dragon live is not Burke in the name, is not Burke in the theme park, which is based on the cartoon Strange. Watching How to Train Your Dragon live is not Burke in the theme park. That is interesting that they changed the name of it. Though, I guess if it's connected, maybe it's connected to the other films. I've never seen, or at least I don't really have a good memory of the other two How to Train Your Dragon movies, so I don't know if they ever expand it out. And I don't know if it's maybe trying to feature that. I don't know. Let's see. JS Pena, ahoy, ahoy, JS Pena, welcome back. Jimmy A at 736 saying, I haven't seen the original How to Train Your Dragon in a while, but this new one looked okay to me. Then again, I'm not a big animation fan. And as I said, if you've never seen the animation before, I think that you'll probably find a lot of enjoyment in it because the story is good. The story is fun. But again, it's hard for me to enjoy something that I've already seen and that I've already seen being done better. J.S. Pena, just saw The Phoenician Scheme with my dad. Hate to say it, but I think Wes Anderson has lost his charm. Yeah, dude, I mean, look, I actually, for the most part, enjoy The Phoenician Scheme, but I also mentioned in my review, I have to watch it again because, honestly, I fell asleep. I was quite bored by the movie. The parts that I was awake for, though, I enjoyed. It was, had that same quirkiness, great acting and everything, and I thought some of the things there were interesting. Now, I know Laura, shout out to Shorty Short, she did not like the film, apparently walked out like an hour in or so, and it's hard. I've never walked out of a movie before. I've fallen asleep during movies. I don't walk out typically. That's just, that's never really been my thing. But I totally understand why someone might in this case, because I did think the film was rather boring. That being said, yeah, I don't think it's as bad as Asteroid City was. Asteroid City was really bad. Like, it was painful to watch. That's how bad it was. Phoenician Scheme, not nearly on the same level as a Grand Budapest Hotel or some of the other, great films from Wes Anderson, but I don't think it's as bad as Asteroid City was, at least. Not that that's a very good compliment, but hey, it is what it is. Lee Mitchell, Avengers, Diminishing Returns. Yep. Vivander, I love Chattanooga, great climbing facility downtown. Indeed, it's a wonderful city. Michael Brigette saying, hey, Odin, saw The Life of Chuck this weekend, and it was a really interesting movie. It's one that has a lot to think about, and you don't know the story it's based on. You don't want to be spoiled. The Life of Chuck. Yeah, I actually hadn't heard of The Life of Chuck. Interesting. Thanatos saying, when they race swapped the girl, I hopped out. Here's the thing, Thanatos. It would have been okay had they done a couple of things. One, had they cast an actress that wasn't just a Nepo baby and actually captured the essence of the character from the original movie. And two, had they actually made her blonde like the character's supposed to be in the movie. Had they done those two things, the actress herself actually would have probably panned out okay. But neither of those things happened. I know there are some people that might be a little bit more puristic about that kind of thing. For me, it's like, look, if you are able to embody the character and you have all of those hallmark factors, hallmark things that are important, then I'm okay with it. I can at least deal with it, right? But when your performance goes kind of against the character, kind of why I really don't like the character of Chani from Dune, but that has more to do with the writing than anything else, because Chani in the book is nothing like Chani in the movies, and they're clearly trying to do something new and different with the movies. That bothers me quite a bit, because you're changing source material, and it's a problem. When it comes to what they did with her character, though, again, other than the whole race swap thing, the actress overall is fine, right? She is a Nepo baby, but she's not a terrible actress. She just does not capture the essence of Astrid, and she's not blonde. And I know that can be seen kind of as a very myopic way of viewing it, but hey, that is a pretty, main hallmark of that character. It would be like having a character who's described as being very pale-skinned with a hooked nose, and then casting someone who is not pale-skinned with a hooked nose to play the character. Huh. Wonder why I've heard that before. in shows that have not yet been released. Jimmy A at 741. Did you see the early Raven? Did the early Raven forums ever start back up again? If so, I have a few things to submit. Yeah, I had to shut it down because, we had that issue with trolls, unfortunately. So let me see if I can. All right. So it is back open again. I'm not going to post the link to it because I again, just don't know exactly whether or not people were accessing or one person was accessing it from the chat, if chatbots had access for any reason. It was posted a long time ago, though, on the channel page, right? So if you go to what's it called on YouTube? The community tab on YouTube, it should still be posted there. It should be still the same link as well. So anyway, I'll leave that open for y'all for now, and I'll check back in just to make sure that they get logged and that nothing else crazy happens. But yeah, thank you for reminding me. I'm still trying to find an alternative form, but Rob D saying Snow White will 100% win worst pointless remake at the next Ravens. I think Snow White's going to win a lot of Raven awards next year. I really do. Mostly in that negative category. Lee Mitchell tagged to say best summer drink and why is it sun brewed iced tea? Lee Mitchell, great open forum question. Yeah, so for best summer drink, I'm kind of like an old school, very boring person. So I like water. I like H2O. I'm like Bobby Boucher. I like some high quality H2O. But sweet tea is wonderful. I would say sweet tea. Southern sweet tea is delightful and very refreshing out in the sun. But yeah, in general, though, I would go with straight water. Straight up. Jimmy A, F1 and Jurassic World going head-to-head was not the best idea. They might pull a 2023 and cannibalize each other. Maybe. I always say, though, when it comes to box office and movies, the concept of competition and cannibalizing doesn't always really pan out the way that we think. Because if a movie is good, if a movie has good word of mouth, it doesn't matter how... It doesn't matter that there are two movies that come out at the same time. Because either you want to see the movie or you don't. Period. People typically don't say, oh man, you know what? I saw Jurassic World and I really though want to see F1 and man, I really do want to watch it, but you know what? I'm just not going to. No, typically it's like, I really want to watch Jurassic World and I really want to watch F1, especially now that it's gotten really good reviews. The one argument you could make is that, well, with how much money it costs to go see a movie these days, okay, what you watch first is likely going to impact what you watch later. The issue, though, is typically you have a lot of people that are kind of your regular everyday moviegoers. They'll go to see films that they actually want to see. So whether the film is coming out at the same time as another film, right? If I want to see two movies, I'm not going to say, oh dear, I saw one movie. What am I going to do? It's like, well, I'll just go see this movie this weekend, next weekend, whenever there's another open day. So it impacts it to a certain degree, for sure. But I don't think it's as impactful as some people think. Great example of that, and I know people might try to argue against it, but Barbenheimer, all right? Even though different audiences, different core audiences, there was still a lot of crossover because of the whole meme thing, right? So people who usually would not have seen Oppenheimer went to go see it because of the meme. People who typically would not have gone to see Barbie went to go see it because of the meme. So if anything, it shows us that, hey, guess what? Two films at the same time can both still make a lot of money. Jurassic World F1 probably have some crossover audience in the first place. But I tell you right now, as someone who has really fallen out of love with the whole Jurassic World experience because they just haven't been very good movies and they've gotten worse and worse with every subsequent release, I have no desire to see that. I have no desire to see that one. So I think that you're going to have a lot more people then being more open to seeing F1 that weekend instead. Deeple 101. Hail to you, Deeple. Ahoy. Thanks for being here. Frank G. tagged to say, do you think it's possible that Avatar 3 is the only billion-dollar film this year? Based off of what we're seeing right now, yeah. It's not looking like there are a lot of other films that would be able to hit $1 billion. So as of right now, we could argue that there is at least a chance for a movie like Lilo and Stitch to maybe get there. It's a mathematical possibility for that movie. So if that were to happen, it would be the first film of the year to do so, right? So hey, anything can happen. The chances of that happening are becoming less and less, though, as time goes on because of, again, over time, you're just making less and less at the box office. So that's kind of what we're seeing happen at this point in time. Looking at the release schedule for the year, because there's always films that kind of fly under the radar. So F1, I saw someone in the chat mention, hey, F1's very popular internationally. Maybe it'll do better there. Oh, yeah, I'm not saying that it won't. But you do need to have a core, strong domestic base when you have a budget like that. If you want to hit your break even within a certain amount of money, basically, right? So, yeah, it might be huge internationally. But because they only get 40% of that money back, they have to make that much more money to be able to, kind of use that and utilize that to break even. It's a different story when you are more domestic heavy, right? If you're more, look at Sinners is a great example, right? Sinners, much more domestic heavy in its box office. And that's why even with a $90+ million budget, it was still able to make a decent profit because it's making, had that been flipped, if you took the international and domestic for Sinners and flipped that, it wouldn't have made its money back. It either wouldn't have made it back or it would have been a very, very small profit or small loss. So that's why it's important. Jurassic World, I, again, have no desire to see it. I'm so sick and tired of these movies, but I also cannot deny the fact that Jurassic World has a huge base. Now, the most recent movie, the last one that came out, barely made it to $1 billion. That was a movie that didn't hit $1 billion until it almost left theaters. So Universal, again, kind of like how Disney does for all their films that they can, Universal, with that movie, absolutely willed that film's $1 billion story to existence. They pushed everything they could to get the movie to cross that line. So that, to me, is actually a strike against the film, because if they had to work that hard to make that movie $1 billion film, and their films have gotten worse and worse, people are starting to check out and just give up on them overall, Jurassic World Rebirth then could potentially be a consequence of that trend and be the first Jurassic World film then to fall under $1 billion. Now, could be. There's also still a lot of people out there. There's the factors that have not been brought in, and we don't know exactly what kind of impact they'll have, right? So Scarlett Johansson is in the movie. Will that move the needle at all? I don't think it moves it that much domestically. Maybe internationally. Who knows? Maybe the fact that it seems like it's kind of like not necessarily a reboot, but as it says there, a rebirth of the franchise. Maybe that will be enough to convince some people. Hard to say. Superman, I don't think it's going to hit $1 billion. Based off of the history of the DCEU, again, the audiences for those movies are very limited. Aquaman was the only one that was able to kind of bridge that gap somehow. And there's a lot of reasons as to why internationally was really where that film took off. I don't know if Superman's going to have the same thing. I think there's a lot of chaos surrounding the film's marketing. It's not a very exciting trailer, in my personal opinion. So, again, Superman, potentially, if it's really, really good. I'm not quite there for that film yet, but July 11th, we'll find out. And then from that point forward, you have Fantastic Four. That film, I think that film's going to have to struggle just to break even based off of the likely budget. And I don't really see it for that movie. And then after that, let's see what else we have as far as major releases that could make a lot of money are concerned. We're into September, and I still don't see any that could hit that mark. Let's see. Going now into October. Still not seeing anything. October 10th. Okay, Tron Ares. Oh, man. How did the first Tron film do? That's the real question. Let me look that up real quick. Or rather, the first of the reboots, Tron Legacy. Yeah, not as much as I didn't think it made a whole lot of money, and sure enough, it did. Back in 2010, Tron Legacy made only $400-ish million, so you adjust for inflation. So, based off of that track record, yeah, I don't think Tron Ares would be able to. But again, maybe more marketing behind it. So, this early on, though, I would say no. That's from Disney. So I would say probably no on that. Let's see. October, Mortal Kombat 2. The first film really didn't do much, so no, that film's not going to do it. Predator Badlands ain't going to do it. Running Man, intriguing. I don't see it being $1 billion film in November, of all places. Wicked for Good, maybe. Wicked for Good, maybe. I'm trying to remember what the first film ended up doing, because $755 million for that one. So there seems to be a ceiling on the audience. I don't think you're going to grow your film necessarily with part 2. Maybe a little bit, because maybe there were some people that didn't watch it until VOD and said, hey, I actually like this, and might actually be interested in watching the follow-up to it, the finale to it. So I don't think that one's going to do it. Sleeper of the Year, Zootopia 2. I'm always having to remind myself, right? So unless it gets pushed back, could always happen. Yeah, November 26th, Zootopia 2. That film, I think, has potential, because Zootopia was a pretty big movie when it came out, and especially when it came out on Blu-ray, etc. Like over the course of time, it's gotten a lot bigger. It's one of my favorite of the more modern Disney animations. So I think that might be the sleeper of the year. So yeah, obviously a lot of films that I've just mentioned. And yeah, the first film made over $1 billion, and that's before you adjust for things like inflation. And that was back in 2016. So yeah, I think Zootopia 2 could potentially be the film that probably has the best chance of hitting $1 billion before Avatar does. But with all that being said, yeah, Avatar, I think, is the only guaranteed $1 billion film. Guaranteed $1 billion film. All the other ones that I've just mentioned, it's like, okay, you're saying there's a chance. Or, oh, there's a pretty good chance, right? Yeah, there's Morak saying actual F1 racing is very popular internationally, could pull strong globally, could. But then again, just because you watch F1 racing does not mean that you're actually going to watch the movie. This is something people oftentimes forget. If you look at even video game films, for instance, the Super Mario Brothers movie, okay, did very well, but you can't tell me that every person that plays the game, that plays Super Mario in any way, went to go see the movie. Because you look at video game sales, you look at things like that, not even comparable. Rob D, $300 million for F1. What did they build? Real F1 cars specifically for the movie? You never know. With that team behind the movie. Eastland Burkholder, welcome to the chat. Again, if you have a comment or question that you want me to read or answer, just put @Odin at the very beginning of your comment. @Odin lets me know you're trying to get my attention. Unless, of course, you are a member, in which case you don't have to worry about tagging. Wendy Hunter saying, sorry, bad motor skills today. New maths, no problem at all. Wendy is very excited for the math. King and Rumsky, that's the stuff I thought you forgot. No. I mean, I did forget for a moment, but I brought it. Don't worry. Jimmy A. Time to say the movie might be entertaining, so I'm giving it a chance. The last one was terrible, so if this one is bad, I'm done with the series. The movie might be entertaining, so I'm giving it a chance. Okay. Was that for... Which one was that for? Peter Fontaine, yep, I'm here for the numbers. Good stuff. Shorty Short saying, oh, dang, I forgot to say Happy Father's Day to all father. Well, thank you, Laura. Appreciate that. It was a very, very good Father's Day. Was able to breakfast made for me, and as someone who does usually all the cooking, all the shopping, things like that, it's just because that's just what I do. It was nice not having to worry about those things, having some like just alone time as well for dads especially. That's the key thing. It's like, okay, let me just have some time to sit in my office, just not have to worry about anything. Was nice, and was able to end the night with a campfire in our fire pit, cooking some hot dogs, some s'mores with my son, which was fun. He was a little crazy, but that happens at this age. J.S. Pena, the Psycho remake did have Vince Vaughn. Okay, so I was mixing those up then. Vince Vaughn's a great actor. Again, I think he's underrated, but not in that one. Gary Banjo is saying, sit one row behind 40X and get the light version for half the ticket price. Dang, dude. Kane Rumsky, no need to watch Culture Casino after your devastating math. Come on, man. Oh, well, hey, shout out to Culture Casino. I love the dude. Short. Saw The Unholy Trinity this weekend. Excellent Western, not a movie about anything unholy. Well, that's good. That's good, Laura. I heard very positive things about the film from the Film Threat guys. So that is definitely on the top of my list of things to check out. So very, very excited. Hoping there's some good show times. The issue is that the box office is hurting when you look at the show times. So since COVID times, it's been very hard for the theaters around us to really get back into the swing of things. I'm used to down in New Orleans having a theater that I used to work at where your first shows of the day when big releases would come out, sometimes they'd have showings as early as like 8 or 9 a.m. in the morning, with most days being between 9:30 and 10 with your first showing. In the Chattanooga area, since it's not as high of a volume of a location, you have, for a long time, it was like the earliest show time was like 1 or 2 p.m., which is awful for the summertime because it's like, man, I can maybe see one movie and then I have to go get the kids from school. So that's tough. But when it was starting to get a little bit better at the box office, they started to have those earlier showtimes again. But recently, even with summer starting, they haven't really gone back down to even the 10 a.m. start. And that means that no one's really going. All right. Again, if you have a comment or question you want me to read or mention, just put at Odin at the very beginning of your comment. Keely Chow, leaving early, as always. Jess Pena, Asteroid City was worse? Damn. I mean, I also hated Asteroid City, so just take that for what it is. If you liked Asteroid City, hey, maybe you will actually like the Phoenician Scheme. Rob D. Odin banned me from the channel if you must, but I watched Cars 2 and 3. I honestly didn't think they were that bad as people say. I can't ban you from the channel because I have not seen Cars 2 or 3. I like the first Cars, but the Cars franchise was one that the reason why a lot of people actually hate it is more so because of the idea with how it seemed how quickly they turned around that series of films, and then they also adapted it into like a plane series as well. So it was like we just got way too much of it way too quickly. It was like Disney getting very, very greedy. I think that's why most people hate it. Let's see, Shorty Short saying, Michael Cera hitting on the nun was distasteful in The Phoenician. Well, I think his character is kind of supposed to be a bit like you're supposed to be disgusted by him. That's how I at least took the character. But yes, definitely agree that it can be seen that way. Michael Brigette, The Life of Chuck is based on a Stephen King short story. Adaptation was written and directed by Mike Flanagan. Dr. Sleep, The Haunting of Hill House, Midnight Mass. Okay, maybe I have seen trailer for that. Short, I've only recently seen the How to Train Your Dragon animated movies, so this remake was way too soon for me. There you go. Yeah, absolutely. Again, because you're basically saying, okay, I've seen this movie before. And it's like, okay, I don't really want to see the same movie again. Raven Troll sucks, says Gary. Yes, indeed, I agree. It's very, very annoying. Heartbreak Ridge, thanks for being a member for 18 months at the Citizen of Asgard level. Appreciate you. He says, hail Odin in chat. Hail to you, Heartbreak Ridge. Thanks for being a member. King and Rumsky over on Green Machine. What do you think about Sweet Tea as a nickname for a girlfriend? Probably not. I don't know. I'll let the ladies in the chat maybe respond to that. I don't know if that's necessarily the best nickname. The physics channel with Kenny Lee. What's going on, brother? Says, I watched the new How to Train Your Dragon, and it was okay. The original was much better. Agreed. It's like, okay, I think you're better off watching the original film if you've never seen it before. I will say, if you are interested in seeing the live action version, and I think this is what Az did. It was very smart for him to do it this way. He saw the live action first so that when he did see the animated, because he had never seen the movie at all before, his experience of the live action wouldn't be tainted by his experience of the original. But even in that case, though, I think you could still admit, okay, you're still having a movie that's essentially telling the same exact story in the same exact way, almost beat for beat, shot for shot. And that just objectively should cause problems and issues. Jimmy A. At 807, I remember in 2022, they re-released Jurassic World Dominion around Labor Day 2022. The movie was terrible, by the way. Oh, yes. Yes. All of the follow-ups to the first Jurassic World were bad. Even the first Jurassic World, okay? I'm talking world here, not park. The first Jurassic World itself was also a bit overhyped. People, I think, rated that film better than they realized. Because going back and watching, you're like, ooh, I don't know. Especially when you know and see where that franchise ends up with Dominion. It's just not good. Forever Sci-Fi at 810. Tag to say, or rather he's a member. I love Tron Legacy, but I have no faith that Disney could make Tron Ares good. Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. Because isn't the first Tron Legacy, was that a 20th century film? Is that one of the projects that they picked up, or has it always been Disney? Banjo Sandwich saying Fantastic Four could be hot, but at a stretch it could break even. We could see through the bad acting of Pedro. Yeah, I just don't think the reactions to the trailers and such has been all that compelling. I don't care what Fandango or these online sites say when it's like, oh, our site broke, or oh, biggest opening day pre-sales ever. It's like, okay, yeah, those are the fans. Those are the hardcore fans that are going to see your film no matter what. That doesn't say anything about your walk-up traffic. That doesn't say anything about the other people, right? Like, where are those pre-sales now? Like, typically you only hear about that first day because it's record-breaking. It's like, okay, what about the second day? What about the third, the fourth, the fifth? Where does that track up? Do you have the tracking on that? If not, okay, how is it that you had the opening only? Because Fandango told you about it? Again, it brings up a lot of issues. A lot of problems. That's why pre-sales are not the end-all, be-all. I mentioned this a lot. When Solo: A Star Wars Story was coming out, there were early previews, early tracking because of pre-sale saying, oh man, this is tracking really, really well pre-sale wise. It's like, okay, sure, bud. And we all know what happened in that movie. All right, Rob D at 810. I know you're not a fan of Snyder, but I can already see anti-Snyder fans claiming Superman as a win if it makes even 650 million, which is what Man of Steel made in 2013. Well, again, you would also probably adjust that number for inflation because that's the number they would probably expect the film to beat. Yeah, honestly, I think if this movie does not make as much as or beat a film like even The Batman, I think Snyder fans... Here's the other thing, too. If Snyder fans are still defending Zack Snyder at this point, it does not matter what this movie makes. They'll still find something to complain about. They'll still find something to troll people about. Because many of them are actually bots. Like, I think this was proven. There was research done and found, I think, 10% or so of the accounts were actually bot accounts. Makes you wonder about the authenticity of that. Obviously, there are real people too, right? There are real people that are huge fans of Snyder, were part of the Snyder Cut, release a Snyder Cut group. Some of you might even have been a part of that actual real group of people. But we can also still objectively say, yeah, but there were some bots there too. But yeah, if you are still a part of that group, nothing's gonna make you happy. Yeah, everyone forgets about Zootopia, man. Jimmy A tagged to say, is it possible that Avatar 3 will make less than $1 billion? I would say, I would go out on a limb, not that it's much of a limb, and say it's almost mathematically impossible Avatar 3 doesn't make $1 billion. And it really just comes down to what those films have done over the course of their lifetime, right? So let me just pull up the franchise real quick. So keep in mind, okay, these are unadjusted numbers. The first movie that came out in 2009 made $2.9 billion. In today's money, that would be probably close to $4 billion? That's a lot of money. $2.9 billion. 2022's Avatar Way of Water made a lot less, but still a lot, $2.3 billion. So even if we look at, so again, adjusting for inflation, we could probably say total audience for Avatar dropped quite a bit, especially when you remember how high ticket prices are these days, even back in 2022. So you're looking at the audience probably being cut by at least a third. 30% of the audience for the first film probably didn't show up for this one, probably didn't show up for that one. So even if you assume that, even if that trend continues, 30%, you're still getting well over $1 billion for Avatar 3. if you even go further and try to give a worst case scenario and say, what if it lost half the audience? Again, I'd actually have to do the math on that. I'm not saying it lost half the audience because I haven't broken that down. And also it's harder to do that because you have to take into account different ticket pricing worldwide, and that's sometimes harder to quantify. But even in that worst case scenario, you're still talking about Avatar 3 still making $1 billion plus. So yeah, mathematically, based on trends, based off of everything we have available to us and what we're likely to get with the marketing campaign, James Cameron seems to know what he's doing when it comes to marketing these things. $1 billion is basically guaranteed. In fact, I would say Avatar 3 will likely hit $1 billion within at least 2 to 3 weeks. At least 2 to 3. It'll be the fastest film to hit $1 billion in 2025, and it'll be one of the only films to hit $1 billion in 2025, if not the only. Highest grossing film for sure to be released in 2025. Jimmy A saying for Jurassic World. Yeah. I mean, I don't know why you would even want to give it another chance at this point because of how bad that series has gotten. But again, you do you, boo. Jimmy A. I'm already single enough. If I go around calling women sweet tea, they will really think I'm a creep. Well, he did specify girlfriend. So if it's an actual person you're dating as a nickname versus you just calling women in general. Yeah. If you are just calling random women you see on the street sweet tea, probably not a good move. Michael Baguette, if Elio doesn't have a good start at the box office, does Disney quietly set it aside to keep Lilo and Stitch around to get to $1 billion? Here's the thing. Elio is not going to make any significant impact to make a difference. Like, Elio's numbers right now seem to be tracking the same way Strange World did. And Strange World was the worst modern box office for a Disney movie, for a Disney animated movie that I can think of. So it's not looking good for that film. So yeah, it doesn't matter. Whether the film is there or whether it gets abandoned by Disney, it ain't making money. Shorty Short. David Arquette has a brief cameo in Unholy Trinity, and it was an amusing role. I forgot how funny Brosnan can be. Ooh, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of good casting. I mean, such a good cast, too, in the film. And actually, that makes me wonder, is it playing near me? Because now you've actually got me excited. It was already on my radar because of the Film Threat guys. But Laura and I tend to have, not always, but tend to have very similar views on movies. I always take her opinion on things very, very seriously. And I always take especially her recommendations even that much more seriously. Man, I actually haven't even seen a trailer for The Unholy Trinity, and it already makes me happy with Pierce Brosnan's beard and mustache. Let's see. It is playing in 2 theaters near me. Showtime's not the best, but it's only a 90-minute movie. So might be able to make that work sometime this week. Yeah, it's only got showtimes through Wednesday of this week. So, hey, maybe I'll make that my movie tomorrow. I'll have to look at my schedule. I have to get a CT scan this week. That's a fun thing. Keep me in your prayers. I don't know anything yet. I'm not in any trouble as far as I know. That's why I'm getting the CT scan. It's more of a, hey, let's just make sure everything is okay versus, things are really getting bad. So, anyway. Prayers would be appreciated. Wendy Hunter. Wendy, 820, saying, so true about the Jurassic remakes. Again, every single one of them just got worse and worse. King Rumsky, I know most of the Jurassic movies were no good because I can't remember one thing that happened in any of them. They all meld together to me. Hardwick, what do you think of the speculation that James Gunn modeled Cat Grant in Superman after Grace Randolph? If that is true, that's terrifying. Forever Sci-Fi is a member. Disney has owned the Tron franchise since the original in the 80s. There you go. Thank you. Victor Fontaine. Wow, just checked my AMC for Superman on the opening Friday. No tickets sold for the 3D IMAX at 4 p.m. and only 10 seats sold for standard IMAX at the 7:15 show. Yeah, the 4 p.m. show, I can't say I'm that surprised. 3D IMAX is a hard sell. Victor Fontaine, here's the real question, though. Have you checked other movies this far out from their release for a comparison, because that's the only way that it actually will mean something. So oftentimes when people kind of pull out this, trying to make these correlations, try to make these connections, what people need to remember is that, okay, it might seem on paper like something is really, really bad, but in context, that changes. So if I were to look up my own local theater for Superman showing and how many seats were sold for it at X times, that actually wouldn't mean anything unless I had another movie's history of looking up and saying, oh, well, when I looked up this movie that far out, this is how many tickets that had sold, etc., right? So we really won't know until we're much closer to the release, because even though the hardcore fans will go out of their way to buy tickets, that's not the whole audience. That hardcore fans, the old adage used to be that your hardcore fanboys, right, for comics or for anything in nerddom, you're talking about like 10% of the entirety of your audience is like that hardcore, going to see the film so many times in theaters, buy all the merchandise. We're talking about people spending so much money, right? That's maybe only about 10% actually of that audience. That's like a hardcore member. So you're still talking about a lot of people that have not yet bought tickets, won't buy tickets until the film's about to release. A lot of people that may wait until the word of mouth comes out to know for sure whether they'll actually go to see it. So these are just factors that we don't have access to. So I'm not saying Superman's going to do bad. I just don't see how it does $1 billion. And that's more of a historical comment on the DCEU and how the live action films have done. Yeah, Zack Snyder. Agreed. So goodness. Hardwick, Jurassic World Rebirth looks like it will likely be better than the last two Jurassic World movies, since it's going back to basics and ignoring nonsense like the clone girl. It very well could be, but again, we have to go back to that old expression of, what have you done for me lately? That franchise has not done much for us. Hardwick, David Kopp is back as the writer. It's the first Jurassic Park World movie he wrote since The Lost World Jurassic Park. I personally like Lost World. A lot of people don't. So that's also not necessarily a solid thing. And also, what has he been writing recently? Like, is his writing still up to par? That's the other thing, right? People talk about this. I think the great example we can look at is someone that most of us reverence in many ways, of George Lucas. People will always love George Lucas because of what he did for us with Star Wars. But I'm sorry, you compare the writing of the prequels to what we got in the original trilogy, and it's not even close in quality. And then if people were to say, oh man, if they just brought George Lucas back, I would say, no. Just because George Lucas, if he ever came back, that wouldn't solve it. Because it's, okay, are we getting prequels era George Lucas, or are we getting OG George Lucas? And by the fact that he was tinkering with his movies almost from the very beginning, with changes that were really bad in many cases, so much so that there is a huge market for people that get to despecialized editions of the films because objectively they are just better. It starts to make you think that maybe we don't idolize the people so much so that we think, oh, just because they wrote X movie does not mean that they're going to be excellent in every single thing that they do from this point forward. Frank G. I've never understood why Avatar is so popular. They're very generic movies aside from the special effects. I agree. And the only thing I can come up with is that it's an event. It's an event people feel like they have to see in theaters. I've hated Avatar from the very beginning. From the first movie back in 2009, from the very opening weekend, when I saw the movie, I'm like, what in the hell is this? And why is it making so much money? It bothered me to no end. If there's people sometimes say like, oh, he must be so bad this movie's making money. In most cases, it has no impact on my life, whether a film is making money or not. Lilo and Stitch, yeah, I don't like Disney. Very critical of Disney. Has no actual impact on my life, though. I can live my life and not be like, oh man, this movie's making money, my life is ruined. The closest, though, that it's ever been has been Avatar. The closest that I've ever been to having like a movie success actually like hurt is Avatar. And it's just because like that was like that first movie where I was disconnected completely from the audience's reaction, because all of my friends were like, oh, isn't this film amazing? And I'm like, what the hell did you watch? What were you watching? We didn't see the same movie. And it's funny because over time, more and more people have finally come over to my side of things on this and admit the truth, which is that it's just not a good film. But yeah, it's really the spectacle. It's the essence of it being an event, that's why I think people enjoy it. Heartbreak Ridge, who is a member. While listening, I was looking at my social media feed and I see Javier Bardem dropping Gaza BS while doing F1 promotion. Never change Hollywood. Yeah, that's really going to help you out. Ooh, that could hurt the movie. Because especially once the social media influencers and conservative media picks that up, they're going to run that thing home, and that's not going to be good. Caveat Ties, howdy. Caveat Ties. Victor Fontaine at 826 saying $60.99 for the standard IMAX, $18.99 for the 3D IMAX. That's a lot of cash. Wendy Hunter, I don't think Elio will do well either. Yeah, it's not. Tracking's not looking good, and honestly, you ask any person on the street, hey, are you going to go see Elio? They're going to say, what? Who? It's not that there hasn't been any marketing. It's just that it hasn't broken through. What's up, Guy? Hail to you. Saying, Odin, how's your day? So 2025 might only have 3 $1 billion movies, Jurassic World 4, Zootopia 2, and Avatar 3. Maybe. If even 3. I see a world where Jurassic World doesn't hit $1 billion. I see a world where Zootopia 2 doesn't hit $1 billion. Again, Jurassic World, only because every other film in the franchise has hit $1 billion. That's what it's got going for it. Law of diminishing returns sees that not happening. But again, will people view this as enough of a change if they've checked out of the franchise? For me, no, it's not enough based on what we got. For you, maybe it's different. So maybe 3, maybe less. Shorty Short. Brosnan is a silver fox. Frank G says, prayers. I've had so many CT scans, not fun. Good luck and hope there's nothing to worry about. I appreciate that. Yeah, this will be my first ever CT scan. I have to say, it was one of those things, it's one of the curses of having modern charting. Because it used to be back in the day, like, you got a test, and then your doctor would get it, and then they'd talk to you. Nowadays, they'll put it into your digital chart, and so you'll get instant access as soon as it's there. And so I had a test done where they did some imaging of I'll just mention it. They did some imaging on my liver because some of the enzymes were in my blood tests that had shown up, and they thought, okay, this seems to be a sign of possibly either the beginning of fatty liver, if not full-on fatty liver. And so let's just kind of get the imaging to see, what's going on. The imaging ended up showing, what's the word? Not a laceration, but basically like something showed up on it. And they don't know what it is. And so therefore they have to do a CT scan just to rule out that it is, not anything more serious than what it likely is, which it could be a hemangioma. I was born with a hemangioma on my back. Something I don't think I've ever mentioned before. Yeah, huge hemangioma on my back, on my shoulder. When I was born, they thought it was cancer, and it's just hemangioma. They actually had to do this ACE-RAP technique, which I was like one of the first persons that they had actually done that on. And I think it's like something where even like in some medical literature, like it was kind of featured. So it's like nothing I did. But what was the treatment for me actually ended up working quite a bit. So I still have obviously it's still there. I could have gotten it lasered off, but I'm like, it's not worth the money. And it's a part of who I am. It's how I was born. But anyway, because I have that, there's in medicine, right? If you actually then, because of being born with a hemangioma, there's actually a chance that it could be a hemangioma on the liver as well. So again, don't know what it is, but Arnold, hey, good to catch your live stream. Hope you're doing great for the summer. Hey, so far so good. Anyways, any plans that you will be getting the Switch to? Not anytime soon. I recently spent the big dollars on a Steam Deck, which I've loved. I've been playing the Wii U a lot on there. There's a Wii U edition of Breath of the Wild. Did not know originally Breath of the Wild was actually a Wii U game and not a Switch exclusive. It's great. I love it. It's the same game, same experience that I had, but it's also on the same system that I can play classic N64 games and Nintendo DS games, and it can handle even 3DS games and GameCube games, and it just does so many things. I know I'm not using it nearly as well as I should, but I wanted it really for its capacity to be a retro gaming machine, and that's exactly what it is. So, yeah, basically, if things get better, because summer months usually are better for like ad sales and stuff like that, for as far as like ads that run on YouTube videos and such. Because I make enough to be able to support the hobby of buying movies and everything like that. Every now and then I'll be able to like save to make a big purchase. I don't know if I'll have enough for a Switch 2. Also, I've heard so many mixed things about the Switch 2, so it's not a high priority at this point. The only thing that would push me further would be something like a FOMO experience, where it's like in order to play X game, I have to get X system kind of thing. First Sci-Fi says, good luck. I've had CT scans before. That paste they give you to drink is the worst, regardless of the flavor they give it. Oh, yeah. That's the kind of one I have to get to. Let's see, Arnold. Hey, I'm surprised Lilo & Stitch still hasn't hit $1 billion overall. Is there any juice for it to get there, or is it safe to call it off that it won't? Yeah, so I mentioned this in my box office video yesterday, and I mentioned it in the stream earlier today as well. But I'll bring this up so that way everyone can get the full story. So in my box office breakdown this weekend, I said it doesn't seem like it has enough gas in the tank. Now, my charting was indicating it had made $825 million. Apparently, that number was not correct. The numbers.com has not updated this for some reason. So the total is actually $850 million. However, my commentary really doesn't change a whole lot. I think it's slowing down too much, and I think that it's going to end up crapping out near $950. That's close enough, though, in Disney World, in Disneyland, and oh my goodness, those are actual places, in the mind of Disney as a company, that it will potentially try to push and force the film across the $1 billion finish line with whatever promotional materials they need to do, whatever things they need to do to increase that box office output, they will do to hit $1 billion, because that would make them the first film to hit it, and it'll likely make them the only $1 billion film up until November, until Zootopia 2, most likely. So that is what my perception is, that there's a chance, but I don't see it. But if you were to take the words of good old Nance over at Deadlines, way of looking at things, she says this: Disney's Lilo & Stitch, which crossed $800 million globally this week, is now at $858 million through Sunday, on its way to becoming the first Hollywood movie of 2025 to cross $1 billion. So that is her comment. She covers box office. So who knows? Rob D, not sure how greenlighting funding of Pixar films work between themselves and Disney, but if Elio flops, which I think it will, Disney will deny anything that it's not a sequel. Yeah, I think that's an issue, though, right? Is because of how little effort they are putting into their original films, when they flop, they try to use that somehow as justification for why they're remaking and rebooting everything. They're like, hey, well, no one's doing this. Two things. One, Disney, you don't have to spend as much money as you are on any of these movies that you're making, right? Any of these original films. You are overspending to a massive degree. In fact, let's go ahead and just look that up real quick as far as Elio is concerned. So according to World of Real was the one that reported that apparently because of the massive overhaul the movie had with rewrites, swapping directors, we do know that the director swap happened. We do know they were not finished with the movie, and so there was rewriting. We can even see the differences in the trailers to see how they're marketing the movie. They are reporting $300 million of a budget. $300 million for Elio. The Wikipedia page is not reporting anything, so we'll have to wait and see what number gets thrown out into the trades, because the trades are going to be picking up some number down the road. But the fact that Elio, which is not expected to make $200 million globally, cost likely $200 million at least, oh boy. It's not going to end up well. But yeah, when you're spending that kind of money on an original movie that you already know in our world today is going to be a harder sell because it's original, tells you, hey, you know what? If it's a movie you don't think you can market to a lot of people, one, why are you making it? And two, could you maybe do more to maximize the profits, but also minimize your cost? Short, you know how in Blazing Saddles, Headley makes a joke about Methodist? There is a similar joke in Unholy that I think is a callback to Blazing Saddles. Nice. That's awesome. Alfred E. Newman, welcome to the chat. Appreciate you being here. Let us see. Short saying, Chris Pratt in Jurassic World. Yep, that's a thing that's going to keep some people away from this one. Heartbreak Ridge, have never seen an Avatar movie, have no interest to see one. Whole phenomena baffles me. And that's the best place to be in life, actually. Best place to be in life is to never have seen an Avatar movie. I wish I could be in that same position, but unfortunately that can't happen. Jimmy A, you know a movie is bad when you have Odin saying hell in that context. That's just true. Wendy Hunter. Which is worse, Avatar or Meg 2? Okay. Objectively, the Meg 2 is worse. However, what would I rather watch? Meg 2 any day. I've never seen the Meg 2. I have no desire to see the Meg 2. But if I was forced to choose between them, Meg 2 every day for a couple reasons. One, I haven't seen it yet, so at least there's that. Two, hey, Meg 2 is going to be shorter than Avatar, any of the Avatar movies are. And therefore, at least it'll be over much more quickly. And now I've just made Kincaid and Rumsky's day. Kincaid and Rumsky. Okay, I'm just going to say it. I think Sigourney Weaver is the Avatar of actors. Ooh. I would disagree. I think that she is good in very specific roles. And I don't think she's gotten better over the course of time. A lot of actors sometimes will get better as their careers progress. For her, I don't think that happened. Arnold, hey, at 836, James Gunn announced that they are still working on the script for the Batman 2. At this point, Twilight Boy gonna be old playing Batman. Yep. It's one of those things where it's like, yeah, Batman 2 is eventually gonna come out, but exactly when, we don't know. Banjo Sandwich saying, I see lots of billboards promoting films. That is a test of how much they want me to watch it. There you go. Vivander says, my father-in-law just recently went in for a CT. Good news, no cancer. We celebrated by going out for a movie. I hope that you have similar good fortune. Thank you very much, Vivander. I appreciate that a lot. And hey, definitely very thankful to hear that news about your father-in-law. Amen to that. Wendy Hunter, praying for you. Appreciate it. Again, nothing to be concerned about at this point. But as always, it's like, just at this point, we just don't know. Basically, the way my doctor worded it is that if it was something like cancer, it likely would be that the numbers would be a lot higher than they are in the blood test. Since they're not exponentially high, that's a good sign. But again, you always want to be very, very careful with that. And you obviously want to try to nip anything in the bud. And even if it isn't something like that, you want to make sure you know what it is that's showing up on the imaging. And if it's something that we have to be concerned about or we have to track, right? If it's going to grow, if it's not going to grow, whatever it might be. Arnold, hey. Also, DC announces Wonder Woman's script is almost finished. Which actress do you feel will be a great Wonder Woman? As for me, Gonzalez and Ana de Armas. Ana de Armas, I believe, is very short. Now, I don't remember how tall Gal Gadot was, but I believe she was a model, and typically models are a little taller. So, again, doesn't mean that they can't do it. Obviously, movie magic and everything. Who's Gonzalez? I don't know that. Hardawig, I analyze trailer views, likes, dislikes, and drop-offs in viewing numbers from trailer 1 to trailer 2, or from teaser trailer to gauge interest in the three big July movies. Cool. Rob D, in all seriousness, I have a fatty liver. It's not serious, but my doctor just likes to keep an eye on it. If you're not a drinker, which I know you aren't, you'll be fine. Yeah, exactly. That was what I got my initial imaging test for. And that's why, like, when the only thing that was mentioned was, oh yeah, we found this one thing. We found like these things there. It's like, oh boy. I was ready for the discussion about, okay, let's talk about how do you change your dieting, how do you change your life habits, things like that. But instead it was, oh, CT scan. I'm like, what? So I freaked out right away. Like, my mind immediately went to like, oh my goodness, this is gonna be really bad, and oh my goodness, like I don't know what to think. And I still am in that position where it's like, I really don't know what to think. But I feel a lot better just having heard my doctor mention, hey, the numbers would likely be a lot worse if it was something as bad as you were thinking. All right. Hardwick says here, Superman has the most views and best like to dislike ratio. Fantastic Four has the least view drop off, but also the smallest to begin with. Rebirth has the second most views, but the most drop off. And all of that data to me means absolutely nothing. I think it's a hard thing to... Here's the other issue, Hardwick. Are you looking at just the main channels for those places? Are you looking at every single channel that has that trailer? Because everything has just become so disorganized in the world today. There's a lot of different ways that could go for different reasons. All right, we're going to start to wrap things up. I'm going to get to all the remaining questions in the chat, so don't worry about that. But if you are in the live chat right now, just don't ask any new questions. Short, appreciate that. GBA says, Breath of the Wild was launched on the Switch and Wii U at the same time. One of the last games that released on the Wii U, minus the countless Just Dance games. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that information. I'm just amazed at least emulation-wise, how well it can be emulated. It was a trick at first, right? I had to change some settings behind the scenes with that, but it plays well now. Rita Fontaine, yeah, Jurassic World Dominion had a $145 million domestic opening. Rebirth is only predicted for 70 to 80 million. That would be a huge fall. Yep. Definitely will be doing some comparisons, adjusting for inflation, all those good things. Myra Get saying Breath of the Wild was a dual release 2017. Initially supposed to be just on Wii U, but got delayed and dual released. Interesting. Hardwick, based on the viewing numbers, like, dislikes, etc., I now think Superman will make the most money, followed by Jurassic World Rebirth. We'll wait and see, man. We'll see. Let's see. Arnold Hay tagged to say, what are your thoughts for Spaceballs 2 being released in 2027 and bringing back Rick Moranis at retirement? And Mel Brooks, did you see the trailer? I did. The trailer was funny. My problem or my concern is that the trailer is going to be the funniest thing about the movie. There's things that we have to be hopeful of. So, for instance, the fact that Rick Moranis is coming out of retirement, at least for live action, because I think he actually did do some voice acting. He obviously also did the commercial for Ryan Reynolds for Mint Mobile. That was, I think, one of the first things he ever did out of retirement of being on screen. But this is obviously like the first like big role he's gotten. He looks great, by the way. I mean, it's just like, wow. Like with how long he's been in the industry and been out of it, like he's taking care of himself, whatever he's doing. And also the reason why he got out of the industry, I think everyone just likes Rick Moranis so much because it's like he left because he needed to take care of his family. He put family before his career. That's amazing. Not that I imagine he had to struggle much because he probably, he was pretty successful, was in some pretty big movies and such. But still, I mean, that's something that you typically just don't see, especially in Hollywood. So that has me excited. That's a huge plus. Mel Brooks, though, is 99? I think he recently had a birthday. He's 99. That means he'll be 101 when the movie releases. So he'll be at least 100, if not more, when the film releases. I think there's again, this is not me wishing anything on him, just statistically, there's a very high chance that he will pass away during the course of the filming and up to the release of this movie. If he survives through it, hey, more power to him. He looks great for his age. I mean, he looks still very much with it. So that's a good sign. It's a good thing. How much will he actually be able to do, though? He's still 100. Even if mentally he might still be there, physically, there's no way he's going to be doing that much as Yogurt. I just don't know exactly what the plan is. Also, at his age, how much of the writing is he going to be able to do? How much of the direction is he going to be able to do? And I'm pretty sure Josh Gad is going to be a primary writer on the film. And that's the concern. All right. So there's a lot more reasons to be concerned, I would say. Also, look at what they did with History of the World Part 2. They put his name on it, but let's just be frank. It really was not a Mel Brooks production with the feel, the look and feel of it. King and Rumsky, what was the last original movie? I'm sure someone in the chat could much more easily remember that than I could. Because everything has been an adaptation of or a derivative of something else, typically. Frank Tree, 300 million. Rob D, why is $300 million practically normal for a film budget now? Great question. Harvey, Superman 2025's most viewed trailer already had more views after 5 only months. Here's the issue with that. We don't know who was watching it. That could have been your hardcore DCEU stands watching the trailer over and over and over and over again. That's why I don't think it's the best metric. We'll see, though. Caveat ties, they are putting a lot of effort into these original Disney movies, but the people with the effort don't have the talent. Yep. Peter Fontaine, yep, another Lightyear and Strange World coming from Pixar when it comes to Elio. Definitely seems likely. King Rumsky, are you going to come out of the closet as a Meg 2 fan? No. Get out of here. Hardwig. I've seen the trailer for Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. It looks like it might be the most faithful adaptation of the book so far. I think I may have seen at least a clip of it. Hard to say. Gary Banjo Sandwich, appreciating that. Thank you. Thinita saying, I don't know if she can act, but Linda Carter's daughter, Jessica Carter Altman, be my recommendation for Wonder Woman. Interesting. Kate Rumsky, I can't believe I have to remind you of this, but you should be consulting with God before your doctor visits. Well, yeah, obviously. Wendy Hunter, have a great night, and thanks for a great stream. Wendy Hunter, thank you very much for being here. Appreciate it, as always. Heartbreak Ridge, Josh Gad is the big red flag for Spaceball 2. Yeah, definitely the biggest, for sure. Absolutely the biggest for sure. Don't forget, watch the trailer for the new Naked Gun film. It feels like it's going to be a R-rated film, while the original films were PG-13, so I don't know how that'll work. Yeah, I don't either, especially box office-wise. The first teaser trailer, though, is hilarious. If anyone could pull it off, Liam Neeson could. And I think it's hitting the right notes, the right tones. I think it has some potential. Arnold, hey, will you be reviewing Ironheart TV series? We'll be talking about it on Friday Night Tights. Gary's making us watch the show, so that's where it will be. Kimberly G, good luck with the scan. I appreciate that very much for everyone else who also is saying those prayers. Again, don't know anything yet, but scan will be this coming Thursday, actually on Juneteenth. Fun Juneteenth for me. 6:30 in the morning. I have to get there with the test at 7 starting. Arnold Hay saying, I came late to your stream. I'm assuming you had a doctor's appointment and heard not welcome. I don't know. Yeah, Arnold Hay, you came in late. It's basically, I have a CT scan scheduled for this week to find out what actually is going on with my liver. But as of right now, there is nothing explicitly to worry about. But there is something that showed up on the scan, my initial imaging scan. They're just doing the CT to make sure they know what it is and what might need to be done, like tracking-wise. They say the numbers in my blood test does not indicate that it's something as bad as cancer, but could be. I don't know. Again, there's just no way of knowing at this point. So right now, there's no reason to worry, but every reason always to pray. Frank G, good night to you. The new Naked Gun looks horrible. I'm sorry they feel that way. Jimmy A, good night all. God bless. Praying for you. Appreciate it, Jimmy A. And that's gonna be it for me, everybody. I'm gonna go relax. Maybe have a little bit of a cookie. Made some cookies earlier. My wife wanted to have a test between the two different butters that we have in the house. The things that you do for the ones that you love. But anyway, I appreciate y'all all for being here tonight. We had a lot of things to talk about. Check out the earlier part of the stream if you missed it. We talk all about the box office for How to Train Your Dragon, what it means for the franchise moving forward. Also, what my own thoughts on the movie are in general, because it really is just a complete reiteration of the first original animated movie. It really isn't worth watching, in my opinion. But anyway, so what types of butter do you have? So it's the unsalted, but there's one that Publix makes that it's explicitly saying made with sweet cream. And I'm like, wait a minute, is that what all butter is made with? Is that an actual major difference? I've seen differences, at least in some of the baking. But my wife wanted to have a taste test of the actual like side by side difference. Butter and butters from South Park. Yes. Do you have Dutch butters? Arnold. Oh, shout out to Dutch butters. Mr. Roy, thank you again. You guys are amazing and beautiful people. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. I'll see y'all on Wednesday morning. We'll have our Wednesday morning stream, 10 a.m. Eastern time. And that's the next time that I'll see a lot of you, hopefully. You guys are amazing and beautiful. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. And as always, God bless. now for a huge special shout out to all of my Chosen of Valhalla members, starting off first with my people on Patreon, Father Luca Illich and Miss Martin Muses. Check out her YouTube channel by the same name, Miss Martin Muses. Also to my Subscribestar people, Matt317. Check out his Twitch channel by the same name, Matt317. Also a huge shout out to my newest YouTube member, Raichu. And lastly, to my YouTube member, Mr. Roy, shout out to you, good sir. And if you want your name shouted out at the end of every live stream and video, check out the top link in the video description below where you get access to that. Also, you get access to a plethora of other things. You get your name listed at the end of every live stream and video, like you saw in those names that came up before this video started. And also access to a giveaways channel that I host over on the Discord server where I give away 4Ks, Steelbooks, Blu-rays, all kinds of stuff. So check that out if you're interested in that. Also, I have an exclusive podcast that I hold at least once a month, and it's always a good time, and you get extra bonus content with that also. So if any of that sounds interesting, again, check out that top link in the video description below. You guys are all amazing, and beautiful people. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, God bless.